Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Our guest today is Emanuel Rose. Emanuel is an author, outdoorsman, and marketing expert. As a business executive, he works with individuals in marketing and SEO and helping people get found on the internet. As an avid outdoorsman, he likes to go out and explore places perhaps you and I may not even get to, and just enjoy the experience, the solitude, and especially if there's a nice stream there, the rod and the reel and the lures are going in the water. And as I like to share with many of my guests who are also fishing enthusiasts, I've never been fishing. And so this is an opportunity to learn from Emanuel why I should want to go and perhaps join him someday. Who knows, an experience. So I'm excited to hear about that journey, his journey as the creator of an award-winning video about steelheads and what led him to that, as well as what led him to author a book that it's a children's book, but there's also a conservation and stewardship spin to it. So Emanuel, it's a pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast.
Hey, it's great to be here, Howard. And I want to tell you, you're welcome to come up to Oregon anytime and go fish the Deschutes with me.
I love it. You know something? I am a very opportunistic podcaster. And that's the beauty of this genre is I get to interview people really throughout the world. And there's some people doing some really cool stuff as you as well. So you know something? I may take you up on that because I haven't even been to Oregon yet.
Okay, well, let's see. You get a 2-for-1 in that line for sure. Yeah,
very good. So, Emanuel, before we kind of dive into the book and into the video, share a little bit about your background with our audience. Who's Emanuel Rose?
Well, I'm avid outdoorsman, and equal to that passion is my passion for marketing. And so it's kind of a bipolar existence. I live in Southern Oregon, Northern California, and I have access to some of the most amazing wilderness areas in the world. And thank God for the internet and the access I have to people all over the world to do marketing and marketing consulting for. So I have 3 grandkids and no kids of my own, but I married into some grandkids.
Okay.
And then that's where I'm focused, is taking care of the grandkids, taking care of getting outside and doing enough work to keep my brain engaged.
Very good. Now, have you always lived in the Northwest?
Yeah, I grew up in the Central Valley of California in a place called Modesto.
Okay.
And there gets to be 110 there in the summer, and I realized I didn't like that.
Okay.
Not my thing. So as soon as I could, I left and lived in Seattle and Portland. I'd spent some time actually down in Arizona also. Down in the desert. But always on the West Coast. I'm a West Coast boy.
All right. Yeah, I moved I grew up in the Detroit suburbs, moved to Chicago for the half my life, and then had an opportunity to move to Vegas. So I know hot.
Yeah.
The first thing they say on Vegas is, how much fun you have on the Strip. And it's like, well, I have only been there maybe 1 or 2 times, and that's to meet friends for dinner or to a lunch or something like that. But I love the outdoors, and this being outdoors is so important to us. Has the outdoor experience, the solitude to get away from the work, how important has that been throughout your life?
In some ways, it's kind of made me the man that I am, to have that disconnect time. For instance, when I was in my 20s, I walked Tahoe to Yosemite. I did that 2 times. And that walk is 19 days. And you spend 19 days off grid in wilderness like that, you come out a different person.
Yeah.
You have a chance to go through your values clarification, and you go through some life-threatening situations or at least decision-making processes. You see some of the most beautiful things in the world that you can only get to by walking. The Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne River in Yosemite is a magical place, and it's locked in time all the way back to John Muir. So it's important enough to me that I schedule 1 week a month that's block time, just the same way I schedule my daily prospecting for my business, because it's time to reconnect to being a human versus a production unit.
Mhm. I love what you just shared. Yeah, we unfortunately we have to pay bills, have a roof over our head, food on the table. You're married, you've got the grandkids, you want to spoil them. But the idea of taking a week off a year to me is that's great, and it's kind of like the was it Ferris? Cannot remember his name. Had the 4 hour work week.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I think it's just wonderful that you're so committed to doing this, and that's your way of kind of decompressing it and kind of recentering yourself. Have you always felt this way? I mean, growing up, were you into the outdoors? Did your family introduce you to hiking, swimming, biking, or did that come later in life?
Yeah, I grew up in a family of what I call orthodox fly fishermen, and there's only one way to fish, and that's with a fly rod. There's only one way to fly fish, and that's with dry flies. So that kind of orthodoxy. And I was lucky. My dad was he was a working man, but he made it a priority to get us out on the weekends as consistently as he could, and so I grew up from the time I was well, the very first time I went, my mother tied me to a tree by the creek, and I was not even 1 years old then. So that's how long I've been going outside. Maybe the getting tied to the tree wasn't the best thing, but uh, sitting by the creek all day was probably pretty good. So yeah, and then backpacking with my dad started when I was 4 or 5, and then we went deer hunting, we went rabbit hunting, obviously went fly fishing, and we got time by myself outside on those trips and had to start to understand decision making, right? When you're 12 years old sitting on a rock hunting, you've got time to think and you've got to decide, well, oh no, I'm scared. Should I go and try to find my dad? Then you're like, well, where in the hell is he? I don't know where to go find him. So I'm going to just sit here. He's going to come back to me at some point. Things like that. So I was lucky that my dad turned me on to it. And then I worked at a very good summer camp in Central California that's near Yosemite.
Okay.
And that camp is a wilderness camp in that takes everybody, all the kids backpacking for 3 days and 2 nights.
Oh, wow.
And so I was on that staff for a long time and I became a director for a little while. So you get a deeper appreciation for the transitions that happen in a short amount of time with the
Okay.
human psyche. Yeah.
All right. Now, were you a Boy Scout or a member of some other outdoors organization in addition to the camp?
No, we didn't do the Boy Scouts. I remember I asked my dad if I could do it. He's like, "We go outside enough. You don't need to be a Boy Scout." I'm like, "No,
Okay.
okay, fine." So, let's see. We did things like Hawaiian Indian guides with the YMCA,
Okay.
and then the summer camps. So
Okay.
I started going when I was in 5th grade, to
Okay.
camp. Yeah.
Where did as you were growing up, how did you ever think about doing an outdoor kind of activity as a profession, or did you? I mean, you went into the whole marketing area, marketing expert.
Yeah.
Heaven knows people like me need marketing experts. How did you make this decision to like go into that profession as opposed to keeping the special outdoors experience, maybe
Yeah.
your own personal internal uh desire to keep it internal to your needs?
I think in those days, which when I was making those career decisions, it was the late '80s, early '90s, and there really was not a lot of money in it, right? Like the job I had at the YMCA, I think I signed the contract for $19,000 a year,
Mm,
right? And that was starvation money in those days, right?
mm,
And I knew it wasn't a long-term solution.
okay.
And so I didn't have a trust fund to lean up against or anything like that. So that was part of it. Um, I think part of it was too, there was just bigger, like there was a little bit of stars in my eyes. I was involved in the hemp industry in the early days, in the
Mhm.
early '90s, and that had a big runway, and that was exciting. And so I just kind of fell into the product out guy in that organization, and started stumbling around from my early 20s as a sales guy, and
Okay.
then realizing, oh yeah, this is a discipline, it's not an activity, and then starting to study.
Right.
And my way of doing it is I read 150 books on something.
Right.
And it's
It's a
and
lot
then
cheaper to do that, by the way, than to go to some six-figure mastermind or go God how knows how much education is these days. So
yeah.
there's value to that.
Yeah, and so but it's always those organizations are always have been important to me in terms
Right.
of supporting, right? And so, like, I'm still very involved with Camp Jack Hazard, and I was on the board of directors and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then I've got friends that are running Friends of the Teton River and other
Mhm.
organizations. So
Okay.
I stay plugged in that way, but it's a bigger world, I guess, is for me, and that's what I saw when I was younger. Yeah.
Very good. Thinking about your experiences growing up, the family taking you, do you have brothers and sisters that in the mix? So getting along with them, exploring, doing the things siblings do. Do you think back to what was your first aha moment? Like, oh my God, this is wonderful. I mean, you talked about the trail that you were on, the 19 days of hiking, the special place in Yosemite, and which I've never been to. I've only dreamed of. And as I get out here, I get to explore, but I haven't had the experience you've had. But what was that first aha moment? Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here seeing this.
Oh, it was one that was fun, and I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and in Yosemite, we were camping in Yosemite, and we had a tent trailer and then a whole get up in
Okay.
the '80s, and my sister and I are down, um, fishing, one of the river or one of the creeks in Yosemite, and I'm just fly fishing, my sister's throwing rocks or whatever. I catch a fish, hook a fish, on a dry fly, getting ready to release it, and all of a sudden, up to my right, I hear this clapping. And there were some tourists who had been watching me catch a fish. And I just remember like, oh, this isn't in my family, this is what you do. It's not a big deal. But to these people, it was remarkable. And it was entertainment. And so that was one that I was like, okay, so everybody's not wired the same way where they want to get it down here and go duke it out with these trout. So that was one thing. I think there was also a trip in Yosemite where it was thunder and lightning, and it was so massive and raw and wild. Yeah, because it was just the way that we were in the valley and it was loud and flashy, and I just remember really feeling that power of nature, unrestrained.
Mhm. You've got something that's it's coming across to me is you've got a lot of stories, a lot of passion, and I want to get into the documentary in a second. But have you ever? And I know you're a consummate author. You've got a lot of books, especially on the marketing side of the house, and we're going to talk about the children's book. But have you ever thought about writing more about those experiences of being outdoors and putting that together, not just autobiographical, but perhaps creative stories around that?
That's interesting. I haven't really thought about creative stories, but I have a book of poetry that I'm working on
Okay.
that will be done this year. And I, I've taken my images of duck hunting of a double rainbow, right?
Okay.
And the impact of that. And so it's the only hunting book that'll ever be published that will have no pictures of dead animals because they're either landscapes or my hunting and fishing buddies, but it's this kind of internal dialogue that I have of my natural wonder and appreciation for that moment in time
Mm.
in a poem.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the documentary about the experience of the steelhead fishing. How did that come about?
That was really a culmination of grieving from my father passing away
Mm,
and being able to tell that story of the impact that he had on my life and my appreciation for fly fishing, being outside and it was yeah, it was a labor of love in that respect, and it was one of those ones where you sometimes you sit down to write something and you kind of dribble out 3 sentences. You go, well, I'm going to try again tomorrow. That script, I sat down and I wrote straight through in however long it was, and then my me and my team helped to we cut it down and then we shot it, and it was clean from the beginning because I think it was so emotional for me.
okay. Now, I did share during the intro award-winning documentary. What type of awards had you won for this?
It was for the Humboldt State Film Festival out of
Okay.
Arcata, California.
How was that like to see that your work up there on screen?
It was surreal. It really was. It was otherworldly in a way, especially because that film festival, um, it was mostly um, people who were uh, producing films from out of the area, and
Mm,
it's such a remote spot, Arcata, California,
right.
that a lot of the filmmakers didn't make it to receive their awards. So I got to get up and speak in addition because there were no other filmmakers there that won the awards. So it was cool. It was a cool way to be recognized and to tell a hard story and have that yeah recognition. It was cool.
That's very good. As I mean, it's for our listeners. It's a short video, but it definitely is very good narration, the music. I think this the solitude, just being out there on the water with the rod and the reel and the flies, and just there's something special about that. So I think our Manuel, our listeners are going to enjoy it when we share the link out on our show
Just the
notes.
word of caution is it was produced 25 years ago, and the video quality has changed so dramatically since then. That's the only thing that kind of grinds me when I watch it now.
It is what it is. But hey,
Yeah,
you can always do a the second edition.
yeah, that's a
So
good
who
point.
knows? I mean, maybe that's instead of writing the great American novel, maybe it's some more videos and bringing your some of your work, your thoughts to life. I mean, that's why the podcast is so nice because you can talk to people about their journeys and get inspired and from the message that's being shared. And
Yeah.
that's just another creative outlet. So you get to do that with your photography, your videos. So let's talk about this children's book, Wenaha Henry.
Yep.
What is Wenaha?
Wenaha is it's a forest and a river up in northeastern Oregon,
Okay.
right where Washington, Idaho, and Oregon all share borders. So it's very remote.
And so what prompted you to want to write this book? What was the kind of the spark there?
Well, I think when people become grandparents or have children in their life that they want to mentor, we're always going through like, well, how am I going to continue to influence them even though I'm not living right there next door to them? And so these kids are all of airplane flight away.
Mhm.
And like, well, the most important thing to me is to get them focused on nature and those experiences that have been powerful for me. And because I know the value of that to them being good human beings. And so I've been an unsuccessful turkey hunt that day, sitting by the Wenaha River, just just kind of having a beer and relaxing, and in front of this wall that reminded me of the Klimt painting of the Kiss. I don't know if you're familiar with that painting, but it's kind of a mosaic,
Right.
angular image, and it started this kind of trance with the river, and I'm thinking about the kids, and then I see this hawk who's doing his thing, circling and looking for some food, and then it all just kind of came together, influencing Henry. There's this Henry hawk and the river, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna write at least one story, and Henry will be the main character, and it'll be dimensional. And like I said, I read 150 books whenever I get started into something. And so I'll look at developing this content, not just for Henry, but then also for his parents, right? So we're triggering the intergenerationality of it and hitting things that are archetypal themes.
Okay.
And so it moves lots of energy on lots
Okay.
of dimensions. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I noticed on your website as I was preparing the show notes before the call started that as you're selling the book on your website, there's also an offer for some seeds. Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
so this one is about a forest fire. So Henry lives in Reno, and the Tahoe was burning down a couple years ago, and he was nervous about that. And so, like, all right, well, let's let's tell a story that has a full beginning, middle, and end around the fire, and that
Mhm.
fire's not all bad, right? The
Right.
forest needs fire.
Mhm.
The whole conversation about how we manage that's a different conversation and not my specialty,
Right.
but but we know the fire is an essential part of it, no matter how uncomfortable it is. So I connected up with a company that's local to me, named the Johnston Company, and I got Doug Fir seeds put together with the book. So it goes, get the story, and then the kids can do an activity and find a place to plant a tree. Also,
Okay. What has been the reaction to this series of books? In it, I'm sure the family is like, "Oh my God, look what Emmanuel done. This is wonderful." But the proof in the pudding is when you go out to the bookstore, you do a reading, or you get invited to speak at an event. What has been that reaction to the book?
it's been good. It's been, I mean, it's a good story. It's an organic story, and even how I created this s- series of books, and it gives people a way to have conversations and to do activities outside, and it's positive. I have a really great designer who did the illustrations, and so it feels good, and people respond well to it. Had some organizations that have bought them for school library, and so they like them enough that they want to use it as an educational piece. So that's gratifying, but it's funny because it's like I didn't write it to get self gratification, but it's nice to have a little validation.
Sure. Okay. And you're also uh, giving back in a way. I mean, you're giving kids a path to learn the importance of making a difference by sharing these seeds and seeing them planted. And it's better than sitting home playing a video game.
Absolutely, and I think the more that anything that we can do to divert the attention from the screens and get back to normal human interaction and psychology, it's on us as the mentors of these kids to do that.
Sure. Now, you mentioned you married into a family with now your grandfather. Just curious, what's the age range?
They're all like 2 to 5 right now.
Okay, now do you t- do some of the same things with them that your parents did with you?
Yeah,
Taking
absolutely. Yeah. So we did a trip to Pyramid Lake outside of Reno, and some day trips and things like that right now with them at this age. Then as they get older, then I'm gonna just go kidnap them for a couple weeks at a time, and we'll
I love it.
go we'll go get in the dirt.
I love it. I love it. N- Now, you mentioned every month, 3 weeks of work, 1 week of just getting out, decompressing. What's on the horizon for those kinds of activities for you?
Well, this is beginning of the great time of the year, right? We got turkey season, and then right into trout fishing, and then we'll go smallmouth fishing, and then steelhead start to run in August, and then the fall is all bird hunting all the time. I got a Springer Spaniel that I upland game hunt with,
Oh, wow.
and then he also pretty good duck dog. So we run the birds till January. So that's that's the outlook. Is
I love it.
Yeah. I'm playing everything around September to January, right?
Okay. Very good. Now,
Yeah.
when you go out, is this you pack up the truck, the car? How are you doing? You have a nice big RV that you take out, overland RV. How's that work?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a little bit of a brain deficiency in that I believe that it's important to suffer a little bit, and
Okay.
so on these trips, I still just I have one SUV and I tent camp
Okay.
and and leave. Obviously, it's enough to survive, but I'm not looking to be in a lap of luxury, even if it's a couple weeks at a time.
Okay. Okay. What are, as you go out on these journeys, these adventures, what's your, I don't know, top three, four things that you must have to prepare to be out there?
Mm.
Besides letting your wife know where you're going to be.
Yeah, right. No, I think the sleeping system probably is the biggest thing. I have graduated my way up to the 4-inch sleeping pad,
Okay.
which so that's a big thing, and then some kind of a lighting system for the evenings, and then uh, good good food and drink.
There you
You
go.
know,
Oh, you gotta have, how about coffee in the morning? I'm a coffee guy. I have to have my morning coffee and peace and quiet just to take in the nature.
yeah, a coffee. I do carry the coffee, but it's not as critical for me. For me, it's more about kind of the wind down time and having some decently drinkable wine and
Okay.
maybe an ounce of whiskey.
Okay. You really do meet the folks I hang out with at the Outdoor Writers Association of America, because you would be warmly embraced into this fold of outdoor adventure seekers. Because we've got the fishermen, the anglers, the upland bird hunting.
Yeah,
And there's a couple guys that go out and they've got their little flask of bourbon, a
right.
whiskey.
Yeah.
So you just need a cigar. Well, maybe not a cigar, but I think you need that. Now, when you go out on these adventures, you're driving. Are you doing any hiking from that point? Or are you driving to the
Oh yeah.
point where
No,
you're
it's
going
a
to do the
lot of
hike?
walking. Most days, like for turkey hunting in this next week, we'll walk 10 to 12 miles a day, and the same for upland hunting. We're we're going after chucker and Hungarian partridge and things like
Yeah,
that. Gotta walk.
chucker's not easy. I know that from a colleague of mine.
Yeah, it is. They call it the devil bird for a reason.
All right. So, okay, so then I have to ask this, how do you protect the bottle of wine? Because I know what it takes to go find the chucker. You're doing a lot of rock climbing to get to them.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, there are some amazing box wines now.
Oh,
Some really decent box wines, but mostly if we're drinking, we're in camp. We're not. It's not a hunting and drinking thing.
okay. Just want to
Yeah,
make sure. I had to ask that.
yeah.
You know, before we head out, Emmanuel, if you could, you a lot of experience. You have a profession in the marketing domain, this love of the outdoors and the experiences, and the importance of getting away from, like you say, the screen and just the work and just kind of decompressing to re-energize yourself. What type of insight would you like to leave with our listeners about the life you've created for yourself and your loved ones and friends that are joining you on this experience? What insight to go would you leave for them?
For me, it is to sponsor or mentor one youth in a big brothers, big sisters kind of way, and get in touch with somebody that you can make their life better in terms of getting them into activities outdoors and um, take that interest in the youth because we live in a very crazy turbulent time, and as hard as it is for us as grown people, it's 10x confusing for them.
Okay, very good. We appreciate that. Before we head out, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where's the best place for them to go?
To Emanuelrose.com, and my bipolar my bipolar work product is there at Emanuelrose.com.
Okay. Well, we will definitely provide the backlinks to that. I know you're on LinkedIn. We'll provide your link to your profile. And of course, we'll have the link to the YouTube video. No matter how old it is, it's still a work of art. and something you were in the arena, you did it, and who knows, maybe there'll be some more, but we'll definitely provide the backlink to it as well. And we really appreciate you reaching out. It was a pleasure to meet you and to learn more about you and your work, your passions, and who knows, I may get up to Oregon and take advantage of your experience, because I mean that's just again a wonderful nature of this work is so many people just doing some really cool things and finding ways to enjoy themselves and kind of give back. So we really appreciate you taking the time today.
Well, thank you, Howard. I appreciate your time and attention as well.
Very good. Listen, stay in the line. We're going to do a short close and you and I can have a final chat. Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Okay, folks, we've just been chatting with Emanuel Rose. He's an author, outdoorsman, and marketing expert. I had the pleasure to meet Emanuel. He had reached out to us via our website. That kind of tells me my website's doing what it's supposed to do. He's the marketing expert, so I may have to have a conversation of what it's not doing that it should do, but that's a whole other conversation. Well, today we just kind of learned about his background and just this love of being outdoors. And I always love when I hear stories of how the family and the growing up and the experience the parents have introduced their children to, and just the love of the outdoors and how it has continued to the present day. We learned about the 3-week month of working and that 1 week off just to unwind and get re-energized in the way he does that as well. And just the cross section of outdoor experiences that he is passionate about. Definitely the documentary about the steelhead fishing, very good documentary. And, go in there and listen, and I think you're going to enjoy it. And we're going to provide a backlink to it, and we'll have backlinks to the book series as well, Wenaha Henry. And if you're so inclined, do reach out to Emanuel via his website, whether you need marketing assistance or, hey, if you're another podcaster, perhaps you'd like to have Emanuel on as a guest as well. As for us, you can find us on the Outdoor Adventure Series website. You can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn on our Outdoor Adventure Series pages, and we are on all of the major podcast directories. And we'd love to hear your feedback, or if you have other ideas for guests for the Outdoor Adventure Series show, we'd love to hear that from you as well. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we will see you on a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.